So why would you go somewhere where you wasn't wanted and you were monitored? People were watching out for you like you were in prison. So you've been to prison and you come and go to school and you're treated like if you was in prison. It's not the same, it's different, and no child wants to feel that at a young age. And parents don't come up, they don't speak, they don't really say anything. They just go with the motion because they don't know their rights. And for me, it was different because I had people speak up for me. They were very verbal, and what they said, they got their point across, which made it different for me. So after he was murdered, I was going through a really tough time in my life, and I couldn't find the balance with school and just juggling everything. And I was involved in an incident in school where I had played a part in a fight, but the principal had took statements and students said that I didn't, and I wasn't proven guilty, but I was still pushed out of school because they interpretation or vision changed of me because I was involved with it. I was with the same kids that I was raised with in the same neighborhood. I knew these kids for my entire life, but to be hanging with them was like separating from the group. Like to go in school, you're divided. Like you know who you hang with. If you hang with the smart kids, you hang with the smart kids. If you hang with the kids who want to goof off, that's what the teacher's gonna view you as. So I hang with those kids that goofed it off that day, and I received their punishment, and I didn't like it. It was my first time. I felt like a warning would have been okay, but to them, that wasn't okay. It was either I was with them and I was going to do better, I was expected more of, or I was just gonna fall victim to what the other students were doing, and that's what happened.
And so in a real sense, Ms. Patuka, these are the students that you're working with, that you're trying to reach out, that somehow are not yet in the prison system, but because of some of the things that she indicated that are happening in their own lives, that they're almost destined to that, and you believe that you recognize that, and you've got some program that can deal with that. What are some of the first things that you do in reference to your program, Ms. Patuka?
One of the most important things, I think, is that we work to reshape the way that people view harm. Because that's one of the biggest issues in the system, is that when a perceived harm is done, when a young person does something wrong, immediately they're criminalized. And we have to look at harm in the same way that we would want people to look at us if we create a harm, with forgiveness, the ability to learn from your mistakes. Adolescents, even though they look like, younger adults, their brains are still not developed fully so that they make the best decisions. And so I think right now the most important thing we're doing is just coming forth with an education campaign to let people know that there are different ways to address harm that's caused. There are different ways to build relationships in schools. There are different ways to change the school climate with other philosophies, not just coming in with this magical program that everybody's believing in right now, but with a philosophy that people can buy into, people can definitely understand. And what we believe in, what we practice within our organization, relationships with each other, is restorative justice. And restorative justice is a very powerful philosophy that doesn't really look at just how do we punish young people, but what makes people do right most of the time. Because most of the time we get along. Most of the time the kids in the school really are doing what they're supposed to do. So what makes these young people do right most of the time? And when they don't do right, when they make a mistake or make a bad choice, what can we do to address the harm, to allow them to make right and repair the harm, and then reintegrate back into the classroom, into the school system with dignity?
Well, it appears to me that one of the elements in terms of this movement from schools to prison has to do with this idea of zero tolerance. Why don't you, because I think that was what you got caught on. Is that right, Ms. Hughes? This idea of zero tolerance, which is to say that there could be no forgiveness if the idea is what? Zero tolerance. Right. That is, you've committed a sin or whatever, and therefore you're out. Is that how most people interpret zero tolerance in the system?
Yes, very true. And what a lot of people don't know is that the zero tolerance laws are very flexible, that they're very specific as to what they're supposed to be used for. But a lot of schools and a lot of principals use them just very fluidly for whatever they feel like using it for in the moment. It's not implemented consistently across schools. It's not implemented consistently across districts. And also, most of the time, there's no progressive discipline along the way. We jump from, okay, he got in my face and I didn't like it, or he walked out of the classroom, or his pants were sagging, or, you know, just something that could have been addressed in a much different way. We go from 0 to 60 in 4 seconds, as opposed to looking at what other options we have.
And so, and when you get caught up in this system of zero tolerance, that you got to go and whatever, there's no appeal that you could have made during when you got caught up in that situation, Ms. Hughes?
Yes, sir. It was an appeal. It was like, actually, I was out of school for 6 weeks, so I couldn't even go to another school. So I was just basically homebound.
And so you zero tolerance sent you home for 6 weeks, and with the expectation of what happened.
With the expectation of staying out of school for a calendar year, to not being able to go back to school, to the time that I was expelled, to the next year, to that same time.
So we went from, she was expelled for a calendar year, and then we went through the process of appeals, and they reduced it to six weeks?
Yeah.
And then she ended up having to transfer
But
schools.
she's also separated from all of the people that she knew in that school from the first time. Is that right?
Yeah, from actually elementary school. So I had grew up with them. They had knew me. They had basically knew my story, my struggle, and how I wanted to be different. And I was just separated from them.
Oh well, Pastor Walker, what can you say about how you can, outside of what she's doing, to make this a much wider sweep in terms of making sure that folks come to an understanding of what's going on?
Well, the blessing, Dr. Haney, in Ms. Hughes' life is that she has somebody to speak up for her. And had she not had a voice other than her own to speak on her behalf, then she'd have just been pushed out of the system for that year. And then what could have happened to her mindset over that period of time, you know, we don't know. But we're thankful that she did have some people that will speak up for her and challenge, you know, like she just said, we're not fighting the system, but challenging the system to do what's right. And if principals have the leeway to be flexible with this zero tolerance, then why are they not doing it? You know, why are they so quick to rush to judgment, to push somebody's life down the drain? And, you know, my only response to that would be, of course, this prison industrial complex, this privatization of prisons, and the monies, you know, people are exchanged on the stock market now. So if we got this system in place, which is another thing needs to be dismantled, this privatization of prison. Because now you got judges and everybody getting caught up with selling, you know, people into the prison system. Then you got the school to prison pipeline, which definitely got to be challenged, got to be broken up, so that we can stop people from being funneled from the third grade, identifying the third grade.
Very good, going to the prison.
Absolutely.
Very good. And of course, let me thank the three of you for coming by, Ms. Hughes and Ms. Patuka, and Pastor Walker for giving us that excellent information. And I think that it sort of laid the foundation for folks to see things a little different in terms of what is really happening in the system. And of course, we'll be back with our audience next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning. Thank you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is From Schools to Prisons, Breaking the Pipeline, Part 2. And we're fortunate to have with us to talk about From Schools to Prisons, Breaking the Pipeline, Ms. Rashida Fatuga and Ms. Sharice Hughes and Pastor K. Walker. Let me welcome all three of you to the show this morning, Ms. Fatuga, and to tell you how delighted we are to have all three of you with us this morning to talk about a topic that I believe to be very, very important, and I'm sure that you also, excuse me, believe it to be very, very important, Ms. Fatuga, because you've been involved with this problem for quite a while.
Yes.
Why don't let us start off, Ms. Fatuga, by having you to give us some information about your background, your education, and some of your experiences, and Ms. Hughes will be able to give us similar kind of information, and Pastor Walker will be able to wind us down for this first six-minute segment, and then we'll get into doing the second segment, the issues dealing with from schools to prisons, breaking the pipeline, and et cetera. Why don't you start us off, Ms. Fatuga?
Okay, well, thank you first for having us on the show this morning. My name is Rashida Fatuga, and I am the founder of Gideon's Army, Grassroots Army for Children. We are a grassroots organization that focuses on dismantling the prison pipeline. Grassroots meaning that we are people who are affected by this issue, who are advocating for change. I graduated from Vanderbilt University, Peabody College. My major is elementary education and child development. And I love Nashville so much that I decided to stay and really just give back to this city because I was given so much as a student in college. And so I stayed and became a school teacher at Metro Public Schools for 7 years. And then I left the school system and just started to really do a lot of research to understand a lot of the issues that I saw our kids having once they got out of elementary school and into middle school and high school. And I came to understand that there was a systemic issue that really needed to be addressed. Very
good. Now, Ms. Hughes, what about you? Give us some information about your background, your education, and in a real sense, how you got to where we are now.
Okay, well, my name is Ms. Hughes, and I'm part of Gideon's Army nonprofit program, and I deal with mostly the teens, and I do little events called Peace Project. So every month we just come up with something to do, team-based, everything run by teams. I am a senior in high school this year. I'm getting ready to graduate, and pretty much everything I do is Gideon's Army.
And so this is your last year in high school, and what are you planning on doing beyond high school, Ms. Hughes?
In the summer, I'm going to get my CNA license for nursing and my dental programs, and I'm going to attend school for 2 years to get my associates and hopefully transfer to Vanderbilt for my 4 years.
And of course, Pastor Walker, you know these two persons quite well, and why don't you, in addition to telling us how you became involved in this issue per se, why don't you tell us something about the two of them?
Well, you know, Dr. Haney, personally, I'm interested, my interest is in people who are interested in helping people. You know, that's the whole calling on my life. You know, I came from a background of drug addiction. Spent 17 plus years of my life in active drug addiction and the like. Spent time in the prison system, and you know, and God called me into ministry. And as a minister, you know, my heart is for people, as a compassion within me for people, to reach out to people. So when I see other people who are genuinely reaching out to people, who have a genuine concern, because yeah, there are people out here that are reaching out, but they're not reaching out with a genuine concern as far as to the outcome of the people whom they're reaching to. Let me give you an example. You've got people that are served on a soup line, but they're complaining and grumbling all the while they're on that line. They're just doing it because maybe their churches have they're gonna have a day to serve the homeless somewhere, and they just on the line, but it's not really in their heart to do it. So when I find people that's got this in their heart, you know, that's why you see me on your show oftentimes with different people, because these are people that I know that have a sincere desire to help other people. And then when I met Rashida some time ago over there in the NAACP office over on Jefferson Street, and she began to talk to me at that time about some of the things that she was doing and some of the things that she was ready to do. She was explaining to me some things about Gideon's Army, and somehow we got disconnected for a period of time. And then I got an email about an event that she was having concerning the school to prison pipeline, and I immediately wrote that on my calendar, immediately responded to her email, guaranteed her that I would be there. Not only did I come, but I brought another one of my associate ministers with me from the church, had another one scheduled to come. So I'm genuinely concerned with what they're concerned about.
Very good. And of course, we're going to take our first commercial break, and then we'll have Ms. Hughes to give us some information during the second segment. And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Thank you and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. We're talking to Ms. Fatuga, Ms. Hughes, and Pastor Walker, and the issue is from school to prison, breaking the pipeline. And all three have given us excellent information in reference to some of the issues faced by many of the young people involved in public education today. And I think that, Ms. Hughes, you could give us some information about your background and your education and what you think about this whole idea of going from prison to, from school to prison. Let's talk about it from that perspective.
Okay, my name is Michelle Hughes, and I am a senior in high school, but the road to actually be a senior has not always been easy. I have always been faced with conflicts and obstacles to get over, and let's just say the school system has not made it easy for me. My junior year of high school, I had experienced something where I had played part in a fight, but I wasn't really at fault to be accused enough to be put out of school, but I was, and as of the zero tolerance in MMPS schools, I was kicked out for a calendar year. I appealed it, and I was kicked out for 6 weeks, and I was able to return back to a troubled high school or a transition school where I received my education to become a senior now with behavior students, and I just didn't like the way that I was placed. Like, it wasn't right. It was like they moved me from being a IB honor student to taking standard classes.
Do you find, Ms. Fatuga, her story familiar in terms of these transitional schools and transitional kind of situation? And say something in reference to that.
It's very familiar. There are a lot of students who have infractions, and instead of them being dealt with in the classroom or even in the office, they're pushed out of schools, pushed into from expulsions, suspensions to alternative schools. I do know that Metro Public Schools is working on their alternative school program, and I want to acknowledge the work that they are doing and the support that they've even given to Gideon's Army as we get out in the community and do the work. However, right now there is an issue, and it's a national issue. It's not just Metro Public Schools, it's not just the state of Tennessee, but nationally there's an issue with zero tolerance where our students are being pushed out for a lot of reasons that are ridiculous, and they are not consistent across race. They're not consistent across the school districts, even across schools, even as it's dealt with from teacher to teacher. What the research does say is that kids are funneled out of the classroom and into the office at an unfair rate. And once they get to the office, it's pretty consistent how they're suspended and expelled. However, we know that this definitely affects Black children, especially Black males, more than any other demographic. And that's when you control for behavior, for socioeconomic status. So it doesn't necessarily matter what they've done or what their economic status is, it's still very racially biased, and it's not necessarily white teachers doing this to black children. It's just an issue where our boys are being funneled out of the school. In this case, Mashirka was caught up in that same system, which is unfortunate. Like she said, she was an IB student. I was involved at that time. I looked through the accounts that other students had written where they said she did not do it, or she tried to stop the fight, that it had nothing to do with her, and still they wanted to suspend her for a calendar year, and she would have been suspended for a calendar year had we not appealed it. And even with the appeal, we got a 6 weeks, and I think we really should have taken it to one more level, but you know, that's parental decision.
Do you find that that is general, the suspension for that period of time, for a calendar year, and how detrimental from your own experiences can that be to a student?
Suspending a student for any amount of time, expulsions, it's proven to be ineffective. Research says it is the most ineffective form of discipline in schools, and yet it's the most widely used. And we've known that since, I think, one of the first studies was done by the Children's Defense Fund in 1975. So we've known this for a long time, but you know, resistance to change from the system, even resistance to change from the community, because it's what we're familiar with. So a lot of times we say, well, these kids are bad. We need to just get rid of the kids who are causing trouble. But people don't look at things from a systemic perspective, understanding that everybody is functioning within this system the way the system is designed. And so we really have to take apart what's going wrong in this machine, so that everybody and everything functions, so that our young people, all of our young people, not just the black students, not just the white students, but so that everyone is successful.
And so, Pastor Walker, looking at from your own experiences, how would you assess some of the things that are happening to our young men, especially? Because I think that while certainly Ms. Hughes' example is what happened to a female, but what about some of the young men that are caught up in the same kind of transitional kind of suspension kind of thing?
Dr. Haney, I would imagine that it's happening in even greater numbers when it comes to the young males. I think they have the greatest incidences. I don't have the stats on that of being kicked out of school. You know, they call them expulsion. I call them kicked out. You know, because when I got kicked out of school, I was kicked out of the school system. I had no chance to go get an education. As a matter of fact, I went into the military, went into the Navy, and ended up with a GED through OIC after I got out of the Navy. Those were options that were available to me then. You know, you throw a child out of school now, the options are limited, the peer pressures are there, then they get caught up in gangs and all kind of different other things. And that's the whole design of the system, to funnel them out of the school system into a negative setting somewhere away from the school system. You run into a lot of young black males, especially through my time going in and out of the prison system. I'm constantly out River Bend prison. You're gonna run into a lot of young black males that can't read, can't write. And one of the reasons for it is because they're not being taught while they're in school, because maybe you got a behavior issue that nobody cares to have enough compassion and concern to deal with and address. So as soon as a child gets in any kind of trouble, then zero tolerance kicks in. You get rid of the so-called bad apple. So now this so-called bad apple is in society with a mindset that says, I don't care because you didn't care for me. And that's what we're instilling in our youth when we do that type of stuff. When it comes to Ms. Hughes, it's becoming dear to my heart, because I have a granddaughter that's about to graduate from high school, and perhaps she didn't go through a lot of the things and experience some of the things that she experienced. And there are a lot of people with that mindset that says, well, it doesn't affect me and mine, and let them deal with it. But you can't have that mindset, because if it's affecting her, then it's affecting all of us. And all of us should be involved and come to, you know.
Very good. And let's take this second commercial break, and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Thank you and welcome back to the final segment of the show for today. We're talking to Ms. Fatuga, Ms. Hughes, and Pastor Walker in reference to some of the issues involved with young people getting caught up in expulsion and eventually ending up in the correction system. And of course, Ms. Fatuga, let's look at some of your experiences in terms of what we're talking about here today.
Okay. Well, I think one thing that I did want to bring up is that there are a lot of things that can be done to stop and destroy the prison pipeline at its roots. We've done a lot of research, and so we understand that number one, zero tolerance policies have to be addressed. The juvenile court system is going to have to be restructured. We can't just continue to bring in different programs and put bandages on the situation. We have to restructure the program, which is actually, it's called BARGE, Balanced and Restorative Justice, and it's recommended by our federal government, but it's something that we have to do here. The other thing is looking at how our young people are policed and reshaping how we view harm and how we allow our young people to make mistakes, to learn from their mistakes, and to repair the harm that's caused. Does that mean that we'll just stop suspensions and expulsions altogether? No. Does it mean that we'll keep every single child from being incarcerated? No. But there are definite things that we need to do so that we can make these changes and save as many of our young people as possible. And so we're launching a really big campaign. The young people have named it Set Your Own Bars. That they don't have to answer to these statistics. They don't have to become a statistic. They don't have to prescribe to the youth violence and all of these things. And they don't have to bow down to this system of oppression of this actual prison pipeline that's funneling them, that they have the power to make the changes that need to be changed. And so phase one, which is what we're in right now, is educating the community and building a stronger base of young people to participate. We've got some really amazing high school and college students who are leading the way, paving the way, but we can always use more. We can always use more hands. And who knows better what is happening than the young people who are in that system?
Ms. Hughes, when you think about some of the things that Ms. Fatuga has said here, can you build your own experiences into how you felt when you were expelled from the school system? I mean, what kind of emotions overwhelmed you during that time, and how long did you feel depressed and et cetera in reference to that? And what negative impact do you think that this had on your life?
Well, I think the negative impact that it had on my life was it took me away. It took me off track. I wasn't able to finish and have the grades and apply for the colleges that I wanted to, or attend the things that I wanted to attend as a senior. I haven't been to prom. I haven't really did anything senior-wise, like senior week or anything like that. But I think when she said us naming our campaign Set Your Own Bars, even though that happened to me, I have always set my own bars. I have to want more for myself if no one else wants it for me. So we're just doing things with teens to get them out so they can be able to set their own bars. Like, it's a difference to set bars for somebody, but to set them for yourself and to want that for yourself is different. It's nothing wrong with having encouragement or someone to back you up, or just friends, someone to lean on, a shoulder or anything. So we have peace projects going on, and we're meeting every once in a while, and we're just coming up with strategies on how to deal with life in general. It's team-based. Everything is done through teams, by teams, and we're just looking for great ways to motivate people who want to be different and expect more, and who's willing to set their own bars. So
would you say that the very fact that you were expelled for this period of time and that part of your academic educational career had such a negative impact on you that it was very, very difficult for you to overcome, and evidently you've overcome all of that, not perhaps all of that, but many things in your life before, up until now. But do you think that had a tremendous impact upon you deciding to come back into the system? Were you led by Ms. Fatuga? How did you simply overcome all of that, pull all of that together?
Well, it was very hard because it was the gap between my reading and what I knew was best, and what I knew I could know in the future that would help me. And it was just a gap between my GPA, my ACT scores, everything was just a gap. And it's like, how could you put something back together if it's a gap? So just coming back to school, it was difficult, but I knew it had to be done, because if I don't have my high school diploma, how would I manage to get a great job in the future, or go to college if I want to do that, or even receive a higher paying job? So it was difficult, but it was all worth it. Like, Rashida helped me out. It was a bunch of college students who talked to me, different people that I got to meet, and just to hear their side of the story and what they go through and how they didn't stop. I was just stay persistent.
And so you think what you're talking about now can have a real impact upon a large number of other young people who might be caught up in this transitional school kind of situation?
I think so. If they're willing to do it, then why not do it? It's nothing wrong with doing it with someone who's doing it like you want to do it, and just doing it together. So I think it will have an impact on them. But if you're not determined, if you're going to play around, those are not the people we're looking for. We're looking for people who's really willing to set their bars and do better in life.
So that's the name of the program, Set Your Bars. In other words, determine where you want to go and what you want to do. Is that what we're saying here?
Yes, sir. Where you want to go and where you want to be in life. How you want to be viewed versus how someone views you.
Pastor Walker, and I think we've got about 3 minutes before we end this show for today. But in a real sense, I think that this program, if replicated generally throughout the metropolitan system and everywhere else, would have a very positive impact upon many of our young people. Would you say that from what you know about what they are doing?
Well, I know for sure that the impact that it may have had on her, and her ability, her resilience to bounce back from it all is not something that you may find in a lot of the students, you know, that they're going through this and experience this thing right here. Fortunately for her, she has that within herself, and then she had a support system around her to help her to be able to navigate her way through this. And, you know, then they brought down the standards and stuff like that, you know, even set roadblocks when she got back somewhat into the system. Now she's saying that, you know, she's not been able to experience a lot of things that she would normally have experienced as a senior who had a determined mindset to excel in the things that she was in school to accomplish. So there was a whole lot that goes into that process. But what I really like to do is be able to identify to your audience here how they can get in touch with Gideon's Army and the Peace Project, so that we can create some partnerships and move this thing forward.
Ms. Patuka, why don't you give us that information about how people might be able to get in touch with you, and how they might be able to help you in order to perhaps make this a much broader operation than you have?
Thank you. Our phone number is 615-852-7530. And our email address is onearmyunited, that's ONE, armyunited@gmail.com.
And so they can get in touch with you, and you've got some information that you can send out to them and sort of encourage them to do other things. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, we have got work. We are going to, if you call us, we are going to put you to work. There are so many things to do, from voter registration to volunteering with young people to hosting events. I mean, there's so many different things that can be done. So,
Pastor, final comments.
You know, and we need that help. We need that help. We need it from people who have children in the school system who are experiencing that. We need that help from people that have children in the school system who are not experiencing that. We need voices from both sides of this thing, because this is so important, because it's affecting our children, and if it affects our children, it's going to affect the whole of society, because after all, we're saying that the children are our future. So if the children are our future, seem like we would want to be actively involved in nourishing our future so that we can have a hope. So I'm encouraging people to get involved. Call the number, you know, get involved with Gideon's Army, and let's make a difference. Let's do something instead of just sitting around complaining and talking about our youth. I mean, our youth are caught up in the school system, man. They're putting them on all kind of ADHD medication. Dr. Haney, when I was an intravenous drug user in the prison system, I used to shoot Ritalin. You know, we call it BAM, you know, get high on it. And they're giving this to our school children because they simply don't want to take time out to figure out how they can teach that child. So they send them, rush them out somewhere, mislabel them as having some type of situation going on with them, and then poison them with all them drugs all the rest of their life.
Very good. And of course, let me thank the three of you for coming by and giving us that excellent information. And let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you, and Good morning. Thank you and welcome to the show today. The topic this morning is the office of the sheriff in Tennessee. And we have to talk about the office of sheriff in Tennessee, a retired Tennessee patrolman, Lewis Sweeney. Mr. Sweeney, let us welcome you to the show this morning and to tell you how delighted we are to have you here and to talk about a topic that I've been quite curious about myself, and that is the sheriff in Tennessee. I would imagine that the sheriff in Tennessee might hold the same responsibilities as the sheriff in any other town or any other city, and et cetera. But nevertheless, let's look at it from that perspective to give us some information in reference to your background, education, and your experiences. And then we'll get into the topic of the sheriff in Tennessee during that second segment.
Well, first of all, I appreciate you allowing me this opportunity to be on your program. I was born and raised in the military. My father was in the Army. I have lived in Alaska, Maine, Kentucky, and I have traveled throughout the United States, including Canada. The Lord has blessed me with the opportunity to be exposed to many different nationalities, customs and religions and different people. And I appreciate that opportunity to do that. Also, in 1968, my dad had to go to Vietnam. That's what got me to Tennessee. My family their family is majority are from Tennessee. That's what got us here. So when my father returned from Vietnam in 1972, I joined the Army during the Vietnam War. I was a military policeman. And after that, when I got out, I was honorably discharged from the military police in the Army. Then I attended TSU. And my major was in criminal justice. Then I got hired by the Department of Youth Development of Tennessee, which was a juvenile correctional institution. I stayed there for about almost 7 years. Then I was a dormitory supervisor at that time. Then one day I had to take a subject in Murfreesboro at MTSU. Then one day I used to pass by the sheriff department in Rutherford County going to class. Then one day something told me just go in there and fill out that application. So I tried to follow my instincts. I went in there and got hired on the spot. So I became a deputy sheriff. Then after about a year, I returned back to Spencer Youth Center. I got promoted in the mid-management position. Then a year later, I was hired by the Tennessee State Department of Safety. I was a special agent, and I was assigned to work at the state capitol. Then in 1991, I was promoted to the trooper position. And that's when I had transferred to, assigned to Murray County in Columbia. Well, while in Murray County, in 1991 when I got there, I was proud of myself. I was the only black trooper in the whole district and now in the county. So that was a good experience right there for me. Then after that, I think it was 1996, I joined the Tennessee Army National Guard. I became the first person in my lifetime that I'm aware of has been out of the service for 23 years to get in the Army National Guard. I was a combat military policeman then. Then also during that time in 2000, I wrote a book. So that was my first time writing a book titled The System of Things. So in 2006, I decided to get in politics. And by the way, during that time I had graduated, so I got a BS degree in criminal justice at TSU. So now I started getting in politics. So I ran for county commissioner, and then in 2010 I ran for sheriff in Murray County, and also during that time I had wrote another book titled The System Things 2, True Justice Went to Hell. So I've been kind of busy. Then after that is when I got another degree. I got a social degree in digital audio production. So I've been pretty busy in the Highway Patrol, and now in 2013, I have just retired from Tennessee Highway Patrol, and now it is 2014, I'm running for sheriff again.
Very good. Of course, that's excellent information in reference to your background, your education, and some of your experiences. And so what we're going to do, Sweeney, is to take our first commercial break. And then when we come back, since you have indicated that you are interested in the office of sheriff, we're going to spend the next segment talking about the office of sheriff, not only in Murray County, but how you see that position as being an office of the sheriff. And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Thank you and welcome back to the second segment. We're talking to Louis Sweeney, a retired patrolman, Tennessee patrolman, who's talking about some of his background, his education, and some of his experiences that will eventually lead him to become a candidate for the office of sheriff. But now we would like for him to give us some information, Mr. Sweeney, in reference to the office itself. You know, considering the office of sheriff in all of the various counties and et cetera, give us some summaries in reference to that office over the next 8 minutes.
Well, actually, the sheriff differs in different counties. In some counties, like metro counties or places, the sheriff is the key law enforcement office of the county. For example, in Metro Davidson County, the Metro Police is the chief law enforcement office, and the county sheriff department in Davidson County is not. Well, in Murray County, the sheriff department is the chief law enforcement office in the county. And the sheriff operates according to the Constitution of the United States of America, and that's what they answer to, and they also according to the federal laws, state laws, and local laws. So the sheriff in Murray County is a little bit different. And the sheriff works with different departments, agencies, government, that comes to ask for assistance. So that's one of the functions of the sheriff department in Murray County.
And so the sheriff's office is very important, but it's not the chief law enforcement agent in Murray County. Is it?
It is the chief. It is the chief.
Mm-hmm. But in some counties, it's not. And therefore, when you have a police situation, that is the chief of police and a sheriff's office. Now, what about this thing about the sheriff being in charge of the jail? I've often heard that said in reference to various counties. Is that the responsibility of the sheriff?
Well, in Murray County, there are 3 city police departments. There's the Columbia Police Department, Spring Hill Police Department, and Mount Pleasant Police Department. Now, they are connected with the city. Now, the sheriff department in Murray County has 2 functions. One is the law enforcement end, and one is the correctional part end.
And so that's why we often think of the sheriff as being involved with the jail situation. Is that what we're saying?
Exactly.
Uh-huh.
Now, again, in some counties, that's all the sheriff department does concentrate on is the jail, but not in Murray County.
But not in Murray County. It's a little different in Murray County than now. Do you think that that's to the advantage of the sheriff's office? Is it because of the size? Why is that dual situation in Murray County and not in Davidson County, for example? A
lot of it has to do with the size and the charter and how they set up the county in the first place. So I cannot tell you any deeper than that.
But it is something that comes as a result of having 2 entities, one the sheriff's department and one the city law enforcement department.
Exactly.
Okay. Now, from what I understand, you have some desire to be a sheriff in Murray County. Why would you like to be a sheriff in Murray County?
Well, one of the reasons why I like to be the sheriff of Murray County is I've been not only a citizen of Murray County for almost 23 years, but I have the desire to make a difference in Murray County. And that also that by me being a state trooper, I know just about everybody in the county and also the police departments, and I know that I could work well with all the agencies in the county.
And so your experience, and so you've worked in Murray County as a trooper for most of your patrolman experience.
Exactly. Well, my first 2.5 years, I worked at the state capitol, and in Murray County, I worked for almost 23 years. So I've been there for quite a while.
And so you should have quite a bit of knowledge in reference to the operation and some of the other things that happen in reference to that particular area and that particular entity there in the county, that enforcement entity.
Exactly, and one of the things about being a state trooper is that whenever there's a tragedy or catastrophe that occurs in the city or the county, when the city and county cannot handle it, that's when they call me. See, we're also not only state trooper, but we're Homeland Security. So, in other words, like the last defense.
And so in a real sense, the sheriff's office is a very, very significant operation within law enforcement in a real sense. And they not only just watch over the jails, but they have a much larger responsibility than that.
And yeah, that's the law enforcement department end of it. That's true.
And very good. And so in a real sense, is this your first opportunity to seek that office? And what do you see as some of the challenges in terms of being successful in that effort?
Well, no, this is not my first time. At first, I never did really want to get involved in politics because of the things I've seen throughout my career. But as a result of what I've seen is the reason why I decided to get involved in politics. As far as the candidate is concerned, as I may mention earlier, I did run for county commissioner, and I did run for sheriff in 2010. And so I want to make another bid and run for sheriff in 2014. I bring a lot to the table as being the sheriff, my qualifications, my history, and my work ethics. And I think it'll be a benefit for Murray County from me becoming the sheriff.
And so this is your second or third foray into politics, into legislative kind of politics, electoral kind of politics. Is that what we're saying?
Exactly.
And so you believe that your candidacy would mean something to the people of America. What would that candidacy mean to the people of Murray County?
Well, first of all, I represent a change. And throughout my reputation and my desire, I've done a lot of things good for Murray County just as a trooper. I have, as for example, when I first had to run for sheriff, I made history. I was transferred out of the county, and then after the election was over with, I was brought back. So I've made a lot of changes. As a result of my name and reputation, it seemed like policies, rules and regulations are changed as a result of me. So I know that I can make a difference in Murray County.
So at one time you were elected as sheriff, and then you were taken out of.
No, I had ran for sheriff before in 2010, and as a result, rules, regulations, policies, and procedures were changed. And not only that, I was transferred out of the county, and then after the election was over with, I was brought back to the county.
Well, now were those rules, regulations, and policies changed because you were a candidate for that office? And if so, what were those rules, regulations, and policies that were changed?
Well, first of all, when you run for an office, for example, the sheriff position, that everyone that runs for office live in the county, works in the county, and have opportunity to do their job.
We're going to have to take this commercial break, and we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Thank you and welcome back to the final segment of the show for today. We're talking to Mr. Louis Sweeney, who is a candidate for the office of sheriff in Murray County, Tennessee, and he's given us some information in reference to the office of sheriff. That is not only the position, but the office that is designated by the state constitution in terms of a person being a sheriff. And of course, Mr. Sweeney, let's pick up where we left off the last time, and to give you an opportunity to talk about some of the challenges and some of the changes that have been made in reference to your efforts to become a candidate for the office of sheriff in Murray County.
Well, first of all, I'm not naive. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe there's a reason for everything and nothing happens by chance. When I first found out that I was going to be assigned to Murray County, I did my research. And according to my research, I had discovered that in 1946, that's where the race riot started in Murray County. And that's where slaves were sold. And that's where the good old boy mentality is deep rooted. That's where crime and unsolved murders was a common occurrence. And not only that, I discovered that Murray County borders Giles County, and according to history, that's where the Ku Klux Klan originated from. So having said that, I had to rely heavily upon my faith in the Lord and the blessing that I was given to have the opportunity to be born and raised in the military and to be exposed to different nationalities, customs, religions, and people of color of skin. So I believe that the Lord had prepared me for that challenge. And also, as far as my human nature was concerned, I was proud of the fact of being the only black trooper, not only in Murray County, but the whole district. Now, having said that, I believe the challenge was more on the citizens of Murray County than me, okay? So having said that, and I've always wanted to make a difference in Murray County. I've always wanted to be a champion for Murray County. And again, that's one of the reasons why I decided to get in law enforcement, in politics as a candidate. But I will admit that it didn't come easy. And for example, in 2006, when I ran for county commissioner, the rules and regulations was changed and policies was changed. And then in 2010, as I mentioned earlier, I made history again. Rules and regulations and policies and procedures was changed, and I was even transferred out of the county, and then of course I was transferred back in the county. But those changes didn't really bother me too much because in a way I felt proud that little old me will cause the system there to change things that they haven't done before. So I was proud of that.
So you think that that when you ran for office the first time, that somehow the powers that be or other forces that however we might identify them, were in opposition to a person like yourself being a sheriff? Would you say that it was that blatant and that outlandish?
Well, I would say so, especially me being the first and only one to ever been done like that. But again, what has happened to me has been said and done. And again, I look at that as a mission accomplished for me, that I was able to survive it. And I feel like, and by me being able to survive that, it's showing not only the citizens of Murray County, but everybody else that hey, I can handle it. I can handle the changes that come through. Now, I will say, for example, I'm not going to say the other candidates that are involved in this race, which one is from an ex-city police officer, two are currently involved or working for the sheriff department, and one is an ex-county officer of Murray County. Now, they may be qualified, but at the end of the day, when there's a tragedy or anything that comes out that they need assistance, I'm the one they call.
And so your 20-odd years involved with the State Patrol,
right?
Tennessee State Patrol. you believe will be significant in terms of how you will be able to handle what goes on in the sheriff's office in Murray County? Is that what we're saying?
Exactly. Again, one thing about it is I've been there almost 23 years, okay? And I know every officer in the city, county, and I can say the state because it was only a handful of us.
You almost have to.
Well, yeah, just a handful of us. As a matter of fact, many times I'm the only one working the whole county. So it takes a tremendous responsibility to be a trooper. That's why not everyone could be a trooper. And the majority of city officers and county officers, that's their desire to become a state trooper. But it's not easy. There's a lot of responsibility being out there on the road by yourself. And see, it's not like that I could call a supervisor if something comes up. I got to make that decision. And the decisions that I have to make could be just as like the decisions a sheriff might have to make, because it's easier to be said than done. I have been battle tested. I know how things go.
And I would imagine, Mr. Sweeney, that being a state patrolman, you are, in a real sense, one of the most admired arms of the law in the state of Tennessee. I say that primarily because I know how most folks react when they see that yellow and that black car coming down the road, and how we slow down and et cetera, that there are some things that we do in terms of seeing you that as a patrolman that we probably won't do all the time, even if we recognize that that's the sheriff and et cetera, that you sort of bring a special kind of understanding to what the law is all about to most folks.
And that's true. I'm gonna give you a city detective. They had a trial one day, and they were getting ready to prosecute this woman. And what happened was the detectives, they broke in this woman's house, and she said that she filed a lawsuit because she said that scared her child, okay, into a trauma. And just so happened that one of the detectives said, "Do you know Trooper Sweeney?" And the little girl said, "Have you ever met Trooper Sweeney?" And the girl said, "Yes." "Well, you weren't afraid of him, were you?" And she said, "No." So the city was able to win their case by that. I have a good reputation in town. Everybody in the town knows that I'm a fair man. I treat everybody equal, regardless of their status, position, or wealth. That's the way I am. And one of the reasons why I want to become the sheriff is I want to be in a position so that whoever come in my department will know they've been treated fair and equal and have an equal opportunity to advance. They'll get that with me.
And you think that the people of Giles, not in Murray County and Giles County, the next adjoining county, will play a significant role in how they perceive the Tennessee Highway Patrolman when they look at you?
Well, one of the things they always say is slow down in Murray County because Trooper Sweeney will get you. Now, having said that, that's true. I will get you, but I'm one of the most lenient troopers of them all. Because just because I pull somebody over, it doesn't mean they're going to get a ticket. And I'm one of those troopers that explains things to you. This is the reason why I stopped you. So another, I may give you a ticket, but I'm going to explain to you, hey, this is why, so maybe you won't do this again.
Very good. And let me say, over the last minute and a half that we have here, Mr. Sweeney, that your candidacy will begin. When are you officially running, and when will there be a vote in reference to what you're doing?
Well, I am officially running now. August the 7th is the election day. And again, what I would bring to the Murray County as a sheriff is a change. A change that's really needed in Murray County. Very
good. And of course, we've got about 40 seconds before we end this show for today, Mr. Sweeney, but I think that you've given us some excellent information in reference to the office of the sheriff, because I think that most of our viewers like myself, or perhaps many of our viewers like myself, might know the difference between a sheriff and local officials, but we really don't understand the relationship between those two entities. And I think that what you've given us today is an excellent example of who the sheriff is, and who the patrolmen are, and who the local officials are. And I want to thank you for coming by and giving us that excellent information. And let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you and good morning.